late-night phone call, a deal, and a surprise announcement. A major historic change in India-US ties. After months of suspense, pressure and tariff threats, the US-India trade deadlock is finally over. And the announcement didn't come from negotiators or joint statements. It came straight from Donald Trump himself. In a late-night political bombshell, US President revealed that a direct phone call with Prime Minister Narendra Modi sealed the long-pending trade deal with immediate effect. Now what has changed? Tariffs have slashed, penalties have been dropped, and a massive buying promise from India that Donald Trump claims. Here are the big takeaways from the Trump-Modi phone call. Posting on Truth Social, Donald Trump said that he spoke to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, calling him one of my greatest friends and a powerful and a respected leader. And then come the headline move. The United States will now charge India a reduced reciprocal tariff of just 18%, down from the earlier 25%. For Indian exporters, this is an instant relief. After months of uncertainty and fears of trade disruption, clarity has finally arrived, especially for sectors like engineering goods, textile, chemicals, and auto components that rely heavily on the US market. But that's not all. In a major reversal, Washington has also scrapped the additional 25% penalty imposed on India over its purchase of Russian oil. According to US officials, this rollback follows India's commitment to stop buying Russian oil and instead source energy from the United States and potentially now Venezuela as well. This marks a dramatic climb down from August 2025, when Trump had threatened tariffs of up to 50% on Indian goods. Now comes the quid pro quo. Trump says Prime Minister Modi has committed that India will buy over $500 billion worth of US goods, spanning energy, technology, agriculture, coal, and more. Even more striking, Trump claims India will move to zero tariffs and non-tariff barriers on US products as well. Prime Minister Modi has welcomed the deal, thanking Trump for what he called a historic reduction in tariffs. Prime Minister Modi said that he had a wonderful conversation with his quote-unquote dear friend Trump and thanked him for behalf of 1.4 billion people for the reduced tariff of 18% on Indian goods. He did not mention the trade deal at all in his post on X. Notably, Modi also did not comment on Trump's claim that in their conversation, the PM had agreed to stop buying Russian oil and purchase much more energy from the US. Responding to the announcement, Sergio Gore, the US ambassador to India, took to social media platform X to underline the personal rapport between the two leaders and the strategic promise of the partnership. He wrote, President Trump genuinely considers Prime Minister Modi a great friend, and the relation between the two countries has limitless potential. India now enjoys one of the lowest tariff rates in Asia. At just 18%, India has edged ahead of key regional competitors, gaining a clear advantage in access to American market. From tariff threats to trade thaw, Trump and Modi may have just reset the economic equation, a late-night call. For more on this, I am being joined by CEO of Center for Global India Insights, Manish Chand, is with me on the broadcast as well. Manish, this is an historic breakthrough in the India-US trade deal. Although there are some confusion, there are some big and tall claims by Donald Trump that we will not continue to buy Russian oil and that we will invest more in America. Although Prime Minister Modi, and there's no official confirmation on those tall claims made by Donald Trump from India's side yet.
So see, this is a call everyone was waiting, those who are invested in India-US relations. It is a path-breaking sort of deal because it ends, months of, or 11 months of, slow burn in India-US relations. And possibly could set the stage for resetting of this important and crucial partnership. You are right that we don't know the details of the deal. What we know is that there is a broad agreement and the political call has been taken. I mean, from what I know, the trade deal was done, in fact, months ago. And the dossier was lying, the file was lying with President Trump. And some things went wrong, didn't go exactly as planned on the way. The turning point was at that the Pakistan story, where Trump pivoted towards Pakistan and India refused to credit him for ending the India-Pakistan conflict, and all that cast a huge shadow But now with this, the we are putting behind a period of drift, a period of stagnation in India-US partnership. So the details will have to be awaited. Uh, Ministry of External Affairs has been quiet on this about the details of the deal, but Prime Minister has welcomed it. He said he's delighted. He has thanked President Trump. So what we know is that what one can only conclude is that it's a win-win deal, and India is quite satisfied because we had laid down some red lines, and those red lines, and some of our demands have been met under the deal, the contents of which we do not know as yet. That is why Prime Minister was jubilant and all that. But there are some major questions that are hanging, and that arises from claims made by President Trump. Number one, that India has reduced tariffs to zero. We don't know what is the factual position on this. His claim that India has agreed to stop buying Russian oil, and he has pitched, buying Venezuelan oil via US. All those things are claims. It is not possible. I mean, of course, India has dramatically reduced the purchase of Russian oil under US pressure and to appease that, because this deal means a lot to India. After all, US is India's most important trade partner, most important strategic partner. India-US partnership is not just about trade. It has a larger strategic dimension, and because of these differences, the relationship was really drifting, and relationship was losing its traction. Now, with this big announcement, we now know that probably the details are still to be worked out. As it happens, you see, the India-EU trade pact acted as a major trigger. Only 6 days
Right.
ago, India concluded a historic path-breaking trade deal with the European Union. And I think that got Trump thinking, because that deal got a lot of coverage in the United States, and it put pressure on him, that India and EU could do it. And you could see that even Treasury Secretary of US saying that India has got a very good trade deal with EU. So I think that acted as an accelerator. And now, being is just 6 days later, we have a trade deal. It's a huge, huge announcement because people are not sure how long this deadlock in India-US trade deal and the larger relationship will persist. But now we know that the clearing has been made, and we can expect clarity to emerge. Also, I wish to point out that with the trade deals, we don't know the details. Even with the India-EU trade pact, we don't know the details as yet. So the text of the deal is still not out in the public domain because there are lots of things that need to be squared up, reconciled behind the scenes by the negotiators. But the very big thing here is that in principle, the trade deal has been done, and we have to wait for those details. And of course, it has repercussions for India's important relationship with Russia. And there are larger questions about India's strategic autonomy, which will all be raised in India by the argumentative intellectuals and of course the parliamentarians. So the details are awaited, but it's a big step forward.
Absolutely, Manish. You mentioned the FTA with the European nations as well. Uh, in the past 5 years, we have witnessed a very significant change in India's trade policies. We are increasingly moving towards bilateral trade forums. We have signed over more than 13 to 14 FTAs by now. We have a FTA with UK, historic FTA. We had Australia. We have a deal with Australia. Now we have a deal with EU, European nation, the mother of all deals. And now we have a breakthrough coming across with the India-US trade deal as well. So India is now shifting towards this bilateralism, this bilateral trade policies. And how much is this going to benefit India as a global economy?
The trade deals, clutch of trade deals that have been signed in the past few months. Of course, the UK was an important deal. So you see, they are all interlinked. UK was our first
Right.
trade deal with a developed country. Okay, that in a way accelerated. the process for negotiations with EU, and then we had the mother of all deals, and this, with the European Union, and now that mother of all deals seems to have fathered the India-US trade deal. So they are all linked up. What it shows is that India has finally taken a political call to open up more to the world. And what was holding it back was a very powerful protectionist lobby here in India, which bred inefficiency and incompetence and all that. Now it shows more confidence, more confidence among India's leadership, more confidence in Indian economy and our growth plan. It is important to know that even when Donald Trump had raised the tariffs to 50%, India was quick to diversify its exports, and it did not allow, our economy was not tangibly hurt. So India has other options. And that message went out very loudly, and that propelled Donald Trump to break, to end these months of visions and revisions and vacillations, and finally announce a trade deal. So it has very important repercussions for India's economy. First, US is India's largest trading partner and the biggest export market. Now, in the aftermath of 50% tariff, our exports were really hurt. A lot of small businesses, in fact, were dependent on export orders from the United States, were driven out of business, or the bottom line was severely affected. So now that is all going to be reversed. We will see a new bounce in India-US trade, and also, it will also encourage and accelerate trade negotiations we have launched with other countries, or we are about to do it. So there is Canada, there is Australia. Australia, of course, we have done one part of it. So there'll be more to come. What we are going to be seeing is closer integration of Indian economy with global value chains, global supply chains, and it will tangibly impact the economic life of the country and its people.
Absolutely, Manish. One point that also has to be noted is that in Asia, from the competitors like China, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Thailand, all these Asian countries, India now enjoys the lowest tariff rate. So, how much this tariff change now that India is now at the lowest at the chart? How much is this going to give an edge to India to compete with its regional partners who actually have like high tariff rates from the US? Is the competition now easier for India?
Yeah, relatively easier. If you look at it in absolute terms, this is a somewhat, in some cases, this marginal. Like, for example, with Bangladesh, I think it's 19% of Pakistan, as far as the US is concerned. But we scored majorly in India-EU FTA. And Pakistan, which relies a lot on exports of textile to European market, there is in fact a major their concern out there that they will be squeezed out. So there is a competitive dynamic at play. Indian exports will become more competitive. Indian exports will become more attractive compared to its rivals or competitors, especially from our neighboring countries and in the larger, for example, Bangladesh or even Vietnam. They also have a kind of decent products in textile sector. Now we are going to get a competitive edge, no doubt about it, and coupled with India-EU FTA. So I think this is, in a way, going to be acting as a force multiplier for India's exports and larger India's economic fortunes.
Absolutely. And one thing that also is raising eyebrows is that Trump has gone out and he has claimed that India is willing to invest $50 billion, $500 billion, pardon, in US's energy products. And now another tall claim was that Russia, we will stop buying Russian oils as well. So how much do you think India is willing to invest in the US market?
You see, it's not what he said was it was more of buying, the India will buy. Some of that will be investment also, because India does not have that kind of wherewithal to invest $500 billion and all that. But yes, what he hinted was that India will buy more products. You see all these statements, and also you have to see that uh, Trump is pandering or has his MAGA constituency in mind when he says all this, because we
Right.
do not know the factual details. $500 billion is a huge figure, but Trump loves headlines. He wants big figures.
Absolutely.
So he in fact he was looking for a big figure to justify the turnaround in India-US relations. So now he can go and tell his MAGA constituency, look, India is going to put in $500 billion. It will create tens of thousands of jobs for ordinary Americans. So it is a part of that process. He's catering to his constituency. We don't know the details. There is a cryptic silence so far on part of the India's Ministry of External Affairs, the Commerce Ministry. We'll know those details later. But as of now, Trump also has to sell this deal to his constituency. So all those things he says clearly targeted his constituency, and we'll see the details later.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just over a phone call, and there is no written or no formal announcement yet from either sides. But also, I want to point out that all after the historic trade deal, this is seen as a boost to the exporters. What sectors in the Indian economy are going to be to gain from this particular India-US trade breakthrough?
So, firstly, there are very obvious gainers. India's forte lies in labor-intensive sectors, textiles, gems and jewelry, leather. All those sectors will be big gainers. Or pharma. There's a whole range of products which form the bulk of India's exports to the United States. They stand to gain very visibly from this trade deal. Again, we have to wait. We should not jump. What has been announced is a broad trade deal. The specifics will have
Right.
to wait to what extent tariffs have been reduced. Of course, it says 18%, yes. That, of course, we know. But the devil lies in detail sometimes. So let's wait.
Absolutely. The details, I think, with time it will pan out, and all the tall claims, or it might not be tall claims, might India can agree to some of the conditions, some of the tough conditions that Trump has set out for. But also, I just wanted to understand. Let's say if India goes ahead and says yes to the conditions, Russia's oil imports that Russia has been sharing with India, we have we emerged as one of the largest buyers of the Russian oil. Now with the deal in place with the US, although after US pressure we did lower our purchase from the Russian oil, but let's say if we move on with this fact that we will now not buy Russian oil to have tariffs lowered from the US, how is that going to impact India's oil purchases and its import specifically? Because India was actually buying a large amount of oil from, and it was highly dependent on Russian oil.
See, I think we scaled up majorly oil purchase from Russia. We don't know what the factual position is. So probably it has been halved. But it would be very unrealistic to expect that India will completely cut down or shut down. Right now, it's all part of signaling to their respective constituency, because this was a precondition for Trump that India stop buying. And his assumption was that India's purchase of Russian oil is funding the Ukraine war, which he badly wants to end. But there is a touch of hypocrisy there. There is Europeans are buying from Russia. Americans themselves are engaged in trade. This thing, so those things remain. But what we know right now, that will be a significant reduction in the short term. I think the big breakthrough would be the end of the Ukraine war. As and when that happens, then the Russia oil purchase, which is a contentious issue now, will no longer be there, because Trump itself would make peace with Russia. So that's a big thing waiting to happen. But the next few, till that happens, I think there will be a significant reduction. I'm not sure whether it will mean zero, because India, and of course, as far as energy security is concerned, in an economic security, because India was getting discounted Russian crude. It was saving billions of dollars for India. Now that will be impacted. but India can diversify and will diversify. Trump has offered Venezuelan oil. We have other options. So our energy security will not be tangibly impacted by this.
That's a good thing to hear that India is not highly dependent, and that brings into my last question as well. India is now emerging. India has handled the whole Trump's tariff threat crisis pretty well. We did not bow down. We are still firm on the major sectors like agriculture and dairy, which is a red line for us. We don't mess with it. Like any deal that we have made, we have stood our ground strong that these are the sectors that we will not open for global competition. This is something that we need to protect. Secondly, after US shut its market, imposed high tariffs, India went out to explore other options. How do you think, Manish, that India is now portraying itself as a global leader who will not bow down in front of pressure, specifically from US now?
Right. So you see, this trade deal and also with India, it's a triumph of India's strategic autonomy. I think it's a very smart diplomacy befitting a major emerging global player that India has played all this while, with tremendous pressure from Donald Trump, and even under tremendous pressure, India did not go out of the way or to pander to his whims, because some would say that he was that if you give in to the bully, he will raise the bar. He'll ask more and more and more, which is not possible for India to satisfy. So I think India has played this is really smart diplomacy, diplomacy of strategic patience, strategic restraint, and carefully weighing in all these factors. And I think the big trump card India played was the India EU trade deal. That got Americans thinking that are they getting left behind? So yes, we are juggling and also the message has gone out that under pressure, India will not compromise. It will take independent strategic decisions. It will not compromise strategic autonomy. And this is India's diplomacy of multi-alignment, whereby it partners and allies with different power centers for its own national interest and interest of the people of India. So I think we have really shown to the world our assertive, our diplomatic face that we can overcome
Right.
and we can make, and India is no pushover.
Well, thank you so much, Manish Chand, for joining me on the broadcast. Whether this trade deal, what it is, how it will pan out, that is, we'll leave it to time than both the countries and officials.